Welcome to Finding Faith in Fandoms. With me here today is my very good friend, theater artist and teacher, Amelia Smith.
Hello! Great to be back.
Great to have you. Today we're talking about a musical that has become one of our favorites, though it isn't very well known. It's called The Clockmaker's Daughter. Since this show isn't very well known, I'll provide some background. It was composed by Michael Webborn and Daniel Finn. It was first performed at the Landor Theatre in London in 2015, and a cast recording was released in 2019. That soundtrack features two actors and singers we know from Les Miserables and other shows, Frothy and Ramin Karimloo. Amelia, how would you describe this musical?
I think the album description of an original fairy tale is pretty apt. It reminds me of a lot of different fairy tales and folk tales and myths. I feel like it borrows plot elements and themes from a lot of different stories and some other musicals as well, but it combines them in a new way so that it does feel like an original story, even though it's reminiscent of other things. And as far as I know, it's not based directly on any one story or existing work.
Yeah. I think when you first recommended the show to me, you described it as similar to Frankenstein if Frankenstein's monster was a Disney princess.
I forget describing it that way, but that is so accurate.
Yeah. The premise sounds like a science fiction story, and it has a sort of steampunk feeling to it. But it's more like a fairy tale in the way the story plays out and the themes and archetypes that it uses. So I think that's important, identifying what kind of story it is. Otherwise, you're going to have very different expectations going into it. It deals with themes like time, change, free will, what it means to be human, and what it means to be alive. The music and lyrics are simply amazing. Because clocks and clockwork are such a big part of the story, you can hear bells and chimes and ticking sounds and all these different sounds within the score, the instrumentation. It's almost like Hunchback of Notre Dame in the way it uses bells.
The opening reminds me a lot of Hunchback.
Yeah. It also has a sort of gothic feeling to it, for some songs at least.
Yeah. But then other ones have sort of this more folk Celtic influence.
Yes.
I believe the fictional town of Spindlewood, they never say exactly where it is, but on the cast recording everyone has Irish accents, and a lot of the music does have a bit of Irish folk flair. And it really fits with that fairy tale theme of like it sounds like it belongs to an older place and time, and it really gives a sense in the music of the small, quaint village that it's set in. I would say there are definitely songs that remind me of other musicals that take place in small towns like Beauty and the Beast or Tuck Everlasting.
Yes.
And definitely has some Disney fairy tale influences, some gothic romantic influences. It's got a unique sound that I think fits the story that they're telling.
Yeah. There's one Bible verse that this show reminds me of. Tuck Everlasting also reminds me of it. Psalm 90, verse 12. Teach us to number our days that we may gain wisdom of heart. Because part of it is about how we regard time, whether it's something that we're given or something that takes away from us, and then how to live in the time that we have.
Yeah. And we see characters who are wrestling with both of those things in the musical, with what time has taken and sort of trying to fight back against time and against the cycles of life and death and gain control over that. And then there are other characters who are trying to figure out how to make the most of the time that they're given, viewing it as a gift or a responsibility of like, what do we do with this life of ours?
When I listened to it, I realized this heroine could be looked at as a Christ figure. We'll talk about that sort of step by step as we go through the story. Spoiler alert, this episode will include discussion of what happens throughout the story and at the end of the story. And it is a sad musical, as so many are, but it also ends with hope of redemption. So the first song is called The Turning of the Key. It's a fantastic introduction to this town. We later learn its name is Spindlewood. And there's this storyteller who comes to the town square where there is a statue of a young woman. She's actually made of clockwork, but she isn't moving. She's not ticking away. She's frozen. And every year on the last night of winter or first day of spring, the townsfolk come and they try to wind her and get her moving again. Honestly, it reminds me of our hometown's tree lighting ceremony at Christmas and traditions like that. They happen every year and people come together. They may not really get the significance of it, but it's still a community thing that they like to keep going.
Yeah, and the prologue and epilogue, we should mention, are implied to be set in modern times or close to modern times. So this is a ritual that the town has been keeping for several generations. It's become a community event, but for most people, the significance behind it has kind of faded into legend and very distant memory.
And people aren't sure if they fully believe the story about the Clockwork Girl. They say to each other, oh, they say she used to walk and talk. They say that she fell in love once, but now she doesn't move. But some say she'll come back. So she seems already to be a kind of once and future character, similar to Jesus or King Arthur or the Avatar. Someone who was around long ago and some believe will come back.
And who's influenced their community in some significant way, such that people are still talking about them and talking about a possible return, even if that's not something that they believe will happen literally. It's clear that these figures have had a lasting impact on the community.
At the end of that song, the narrator who's telling the story brings the audience back in time, and we learn about the origins of the Clockwork Girl. We're introduced to Abraham, who was a master clockmaker, and he lost his child. He has a fantastic song called You're Still Here, which is so beautiful, but so sad and haunting. It makes great use of Gothic-sounding musical motifs and bells. He's trying to work through his grief, but then he's afraid of moving on, afraid of forgetting. And he has the idea to make a sort of, not a replacement.
Essentially, it's an automaton that he's creating, right? Some way to memorialize the child that he lost. Although he's imagining her not as a child, but as a young woman. Like, if she had lived and grown up, what would she be like?
Yeah, so he seems a little bit like Dr. Frankenstein and a little bit like Geppetto in Pinocchio.
Yeah. When I first listened to it, I thought of Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio and, the grieving father, Geppetto, trying to create some way to hold on to the memory of this lost child.
It's sad and dark. It's a little, I don't know if twisted is the right word, but it's like you get the sense that he doesn't care by the end whether it's right or wrong. He is determined to do it. But then it's also hopeful. It's a strange mix of emotions.
This is, I think, one of the more gothic moments of the show.
Definitely.
And more early science fiction-y, because like Frankenstein and like many others, you have that theme of humans trying to conquer death and wrest control away from nature over life and death and find a way to overcome the forces of nature.
Yeah. And then there's a very odd tonal pivot between that song and the next one. The next song is called A Modest Modiste, and we're introduced to some of the townsfolk. There's a young woman named Amelia, who...
That's one of the reasons I love this show.
Yes. So she is a young bride-to-be, and she is in need of a dress, and she goes to this dressmaker called Ma Riley. It's a very fun and funny little song. The wordplay in it is really clever, and there are a lot of puns, and, well, throughout the show, there are a lot of internal rhymes in the lyrics. Very interesting use of language. and syntax. There's also a lot of irony in the title of the song and the name of her shop and her general demeanor because she's not at all modest. She brags about her abilities. She offers to make the most outlandish styles and spare no expense. If you look at any definition of the word modest, she is going against all of them, basically.
Yeah. There's a very brief reference in the song that kind of hints at some of Ma Riley's backstory, that she was married and widowed fairly young, and that she found herself struggling after her husband passed, and she has had to fight to survive in this world, because it's set somewhere in the mid to late 1800s, so it's still kind of hard to get along as a single woman in that era. So you can kind of see, okay, she's had to fight for her place in this community and fight to survive, and I think that has given her a certain boldness when it comes to selling herself, essentially, and her services, and she needs to prove her relevance.
Yes.
And she will fight for what she wants and what she feels that she needs, and we see that side of her come out more and more as the show goes on. In this song, she's just being a pushy saleswoman.
Yes. And overwhelming poor Amelia. The lyrics also have some suggestions of the archetype that she fits. When she says, "I can put a price on your every wish," that sounds to me sort of like the language that the devil uses in stories where he makes an offer or of a deal. And later we see her emerge more as the sort of dark mother figure that's present in so many fairy tales, like the evil stepmother or the sorceress or mother-in-law.
She's very money motivated from the beginning. Like, the beginning of the song, she just tells Amelia to get out, and then Amelia goes, I have money. And suddenly Ma Riley is, oh, how can I help you? What can I do for you? And that, I feel like, in fairy tales is often the sign of, this is the antagonist, this is the bad guy. Quite often, that's a trope of the greedy figure who's after wealth or treasure or something and trying to take advantage of people. So that is sort of one of the early indicators that this woman may not be as nice as she would like you to think.
Yeah, she's sort of like a combination of Monsieur and Madame Thénardier.
Yes.
Like, if you put both of those characters into one, it would be Ma Riley.
Yep, I can see that.
Then we return to Abraham, and he, by this time, has succeeded in constructing basically a woman made of clockwork. And no details are given about how he accomplishes this or why she looks so lifelike. But it's a fairy tale, so I think we're just supposed to let those things go. So already we have parallels, like we said, to Pinocchio. I also thought of Pygmalion and Galatea, and maybe more so My Fair Lady, which uses those tropes. And it's actually a really sweet song. It plays with Abraham talking to himself, but then it turns into a dialogue when he realizes, oh, this thing that I built is capable of speech. And he's marveling over it, over the act of creation and the improbability of it all. Then he realizes, wait, she's not just repeating what I say. She is actually taking in information and processing it. She's cognitive. And then he is in denial about that. He says, no, you're just a machine. You're not a creature or a human being. You're just something that I made, and something like a hiccup has caused you to do something unusual. But she's like, wrong. This is possible.
And then it becomes sort of like the first 2 to 3 years of parenting and child language development in 2.5 minutes.
He names her Constance, and that name holds a lot of meaning in itself.
Constance learns very fast.
Yes.
But it's very sweet, their interactions and sort of seeing her put words and concepts together in the way that a young child would.
Yeah. It's very cute the way she learns from him and how eager she is, and then he becomes eager to teach her. The whole sequence raises questions kind of about what it means to be conscious, what it means to be human. We have to remember this is a fairy tale, not science fiction, so the answers or the ideas it explores are going to be slightly different. But it shows the delight of the creator. And also, one other thing I thought of with regard to Abraham, his name is the same as the name of the patriarch in the Old Testament. And Abraham, in both cases, is the father of kind of a new line, a new race. I wonder if Abraham in this story sees himself as similar to that Abraham.
Quite possibly. There's also, I hadn't thought of this before, but both the biblical Abraham and Abraham Reed of Spindlewood have situations where it seems like fatherhood and a continuing line is not going to be possible for them. The biblical Abraham, even though God promises him, you're going to be the father of a great nation and have many descendants, he and his wife are getting older and they still don't have a child. And Abraham Reed, we find out, has lost his wife and his child. And both of them are willing to go to some pretty extreme lengths to ensure that they have someone to connect with and someone to share their life and carry on their family name.
I hadn't thought that deep about it, but you're right.
Like any parent, I think Abraham Reed is both delighted with his child as he realizes that she has this amazing ability to learn and discover things and this passionate curiosity, and also terrified when he realizes she is very curious and she's going to get into everything, including going outside and going into the world of people who might not understand exactly what she is.
Yeah. He tries to keep her shut up indoors, ostensibly for her own protection.
This is where the show starts to remind us more of Hunchback of Notre Dame and Rapunzel and all of these characters and stories where someone is being confined and shut away from the world for a variety of reasons. And of course, what does the character in that situation always do?
Try to break free. Otherwise, there would be no story.
Right.
Yeah, so Constance has a wonderful solo song called A Story of My Own. Amelia, do you want to talk about that one? Since you've covered it, you've auditioned with it.
It's just a fantastic I Want song, and Constance, like Belle in Beauty and the Beast, or Rapunzel a little bit entangled, being shut away from the world has turned to books and reading about the adventures and the lives that she can't have. But, of course, like, again, any good fairy tale heroine, or hero, in the case of some, is not content with that. She needs to go out there and experience life among the people in the town. She's not content just to read about it. She wants to have her own adventure. And I love some of the metaphors that she uses in the song. There's some wonderful wordplay, like between the bindings, I find a sentence written on the page, but also like she says a sentence and a cage, like she's in prison. And she resolves during this song that she is going to go out there and put herself in the story and have a story of her own.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, powerful song. And what it reminds me of is the incarnation, how the Son in the Trinity chose to enter into our story by becoming a human being like us. And it means leaving behind the place of safety and stepping out into a world that is dangerous and probably won't understand who and what he is.
And I love that both of them are motivated by love. Like,
yes,
Constance has been watching people from the windows and reading about people's lives, and she adores these people. I mean, when she finally does get to meet them, she's just delighted that people are saying hello to her, and she can't contain herself because she just adores the world around her. And I feel like that's something that we see with Jesus choosing to step into the story. It's because he loves us too much to stay out of it.
So as Constance is sneaking out to explore the world, the town of Spindlewood has its own song. We're introduced to the character of Will Riley, who is Ma Riley's son. And he is also kind of like Belle and other Disney characters. He's presented as the one person who is not content in Spindlewood, which is a very quaint and uncomplicated town. And his name, I think, also has significance. Will can refer to self-will, like self-determination and freedom. And we see him pushing for those things. The whole sequence of Spindlewood is so much like the song Belle in Beauty and the Beast.
Picture the opening song of Beauty and the Beast with a male bell and then put Rapunzel into it, and that's Spindlewood.
Yeah. There are even moments of the characters asking each other, like, oh, how's your father? How's your baby? And then, how's your man? How's your lady? And that's just like in Belle, like, bonjour, good day, how is your wife?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if it's direct inspiration or allusion, but it's very fun for Beauty and the Beast fans. And there's also a moment in that song when Constance and Will first see each other, or at least he sees her. I'm not sure how it played out in the staging. That feels like that moment in Les Miserables when Cosette and Marius first see each other. And it's like the world almost goes into slow motion around them.
The music slows down, and I think that's kind of the implication, because there's a lot that happens in that moment. Like, Amelia gets her wedding dress delivered, and then Constance somehow bumps into her, and the dress somehow ends up falling down a well, and at the same time Will is seeing Constance for the first time. It would be a chaotic moment, but I feel like the idea is we're supposed to be seeing that all playing out in slow motion so that we can see everything that's happening, but also kind of see from Will's perspective. Classic romance meeting. Everything slows down and focus in on that one person, and there's lights and glitter and hearts or whatever.
So in this town where, as Will says, nothing ever changes, there has now been a change. Constance is now part of the scene, and he is fascinated, pretty obviously infatuated with her, and it's a fairy tale, so we'll let that go. Since Constance ruined Amelia's dress, she decides to make up for it by making Amelia a new dress, and it turns out she is an excellent seamstress, maybe because she is an automaton. For some reason, she makes just really good quality.
It's a fairy tale, so we're going to pretend that, like Data in Star Trek, she has some kind of power to process information very quickly and maybe move with superhuman speed when it comes to mechanical tasks. She also, because she's clockwork, probably doesn't need to sleep, so maybe she could stay up and work through the night. It's never explained how Constance learned to sew, or learned to sew so well, or what makes her dresses so special, or how she does it so fast, or where she got the material to make a wedding dress when Ma Riley is out of satin and is also the only dressmaker in town. But it's a fairy tale. We're not going to worry about that.
Yeah, there are a lot of plot holes in this show.
It's fairy tale. Magic. It's not about the details.
Yes. She and Will cross paths again as she is delivering the dress, and she leaves it at Amelia's house in secret at night. And then get to know each other a little better and have this beautiful love/courting song called Where You'll Be. They're singing about how everything looks different when they're with each other. Maybe Constance helps them look at things with fresh eyes.
Yeah. It's kind of neat how the two sort of come together, because both of their outlooks on life have been transformed by meeting this person.
Yeah. They start at opposite ends. As far as their perspective, he is totally dissatisfied, and she is just thrilled. She thinks stepping into this town is amazing and overwhelming, and for him it's boring and just sameness. But they sort of help each other see it differently. Constance has a line near the end of the song. She says, "Life has finally come alive." And I think that also sounds like a description of the incarnation, because God is life, but God also began life in a certain form through the incarnation. One thing that is not in the soundtrack, but we learned about when we saw a recording of the staged reading, Amelia's fiancé, Henry, is the mayor's son. And when Amelia's dress is ruined, he offers his pocket watch in exchange for a new dress from Ma Riley. But then, when Amelia discovers the new dress, Henry goes back on that deal, and so he gets his watch back, And Ma Riley doesn't get to make the replacement dress, so she ends up losing out on that opportunity for a profit. Then the next song is Keep It to Yourself, where rumors are flying about Amelia's dress, how the first one was ruined, and now she has a new one that's even better. And they marvel at how an accidental loss can give you more than you have lost. Which kind of sounds like a Christian theme, how a misfortune can end up having good results or even better results than what you would have had before. And the song itself reminds me of a couple things. Makes me think of, in the Gospels, how word of Jesus' miracles would spread, even if he tried to keep it quiet. Because when people have good news, they just can't keep it to themselves. Even though all these girls are saying to each other, hey, listen to what I just heard, but don't tell anyone else.
I hadn't thought of that connection to Jesus' miracles, but you're so right, especially because this town has not had a lot going on, and there's a moment toward the end of Spindlewood song where Constance makes her first appearance in the town, where somebody says, what just happened?
Something, maybe.
Right. And it's clear that something has disturbed the tranquility and the status quo of this little town, and Constance's presence there and her actions are going to be felt, and they're going to be changing and rippling through the community because she is just so different from anything that they've experienced before.
Mm-hmm.
From a musical theater perspective, it reminds me of the Rumor song from Fiddler on the Roof. Again, it gives that sense of this small community where everyone knows each other. That's the other reason that Constance makes a big impact, is because she's the only person in town that everybody doesn't know. Because everybody else, they've all known each other for years, and so of course they're going to talk with each other about anything that's new and interesting and exciting, like this is.
Yeah. The ensemble, and particularly the female villagers, remind me also of the woman in The Music Man.
Oh, yeah. A little talk, a little pick, a little talk, a little cheep, cheep, cheep.
Yeah, the gossiping, the rumors. Constance herself, during this part of the story, she reminds me of the fairy godmother in some versions of the Cinderella story. But then she also sort of becomes a Cinderella figure because Amelia puts out an invitation to the wedding to whoever made the dress. She wants to know who made it, who showed her that much kindness, and didn't even look for credit.
It's another sort of Christ-like thing that I hadn't thought of. Jesus says to his disciples, when you do some act of charity, don't announce it with a flourish of trumpets. Your good deed must be done in secret.
Yes.
And that's a very biblical and Christ-like attitude that Constance has of, I'm going to give this hugely generous blessing to someone that she doesn't even know. She feels a sense of obligation because it's kind of her fault that the original dress got ruined, but still, it's just this very generous outpouring of love toward a stranger and not seeking any credit for herself.
And by this point, Abraham has figured out Constance went out and did this thing. So she is forbidden to go outside again, but Will shows up and convinces her to go anyway. So maybe Will is her fairy god person? So this is the Act 1 finale called Raise a Glass, and it's the whole wedding reception, basically, of Amelia and Henry Glynn.
Best Act 1 finale I've heard in a long time. It is so good.
So good. The Irish or Celtic inspired music. I can just picture them doing Irish step dancing or pair folk dances. It's so fun, so fast paced. Amazing counterpoint toward the end when they start layering different lyrics. And another parallel to Jesus. Constance saves a bride and groom from embarrassment at their wedding by providing something that is not essential to the ceremony itself. Like, you can get married without a perfect dress. You can get married without wine or whatever. But those things still have great personal importance, especially in light of the guests and your community that is celebrating with you. And so, like Jesus turning water into wine when the bride and groom had run out of it at their wedding, Constance provides a dress for the bride
that's even better than they expected to have, which is really, I hadn't thought of that connection before, but that's beautiful.
Yeah. Ma Riley originally talked about how a dress can hold all your dreams, and how your wedding day goes is a glimpse of how the marriage will go. And if those things go badly, then it may be seen as a sign that, oh, things are not going to work out well for this couple. But instead, Constance saves the day. The wedding itself, by all accounts, sounds and feels wonderful, joyful. And then when Constance appears, she ends up making a rather dramatic appearance at the wedding. Not intentionally, but just when she comes in, no one knows her, and they see what she's wearing, that her dress is very much like Amelia's. And they realize, oh, she's the seamstress. Amelia immediately welcomes her, thanks her, honors her for her good deed. So they immediately become friends, and at a moment when they're both feeling this intense emotion and connection with each other and with their community, they both say, this is what it is to be alive. And I think that is so true. That's when, probably both psychologically and spiritually, we feel most alive when we are with other people, giving and receiving love. And the song brings that out really well.
I love that it takes place at a wedding, because even if you're not one of the people getting married, weddings can so often be places and times where we feel this intense sense of connection to community, the importance of the relationships in our lives, and just how those relationships with family, with friends, with our community, and the desire to support and love one another on the journey of life, just how important those are, and how those really are the things that give life meaning and are worth cherishing, whatever those relationships look like. But not everyone is happy at this wedding.
No. Abraham and Ma Riley each have a verse of their own. It sounds like they're addressing Constance, but not really talking to her. This is their internal monologue, I think. Abraham feels betrayed and resentful toward Constance for disobeying him and seeking relationships from people other than him, basically.
Yeah.
And Ma Riley feels like Constance is her competition, her rival, trying to show her up.
I forgot about this because it's not in the cast recording, but it's in the staged reading that we watched. She actually sends Will as a scout to find out who the rival is. And then she's like, oh, not only do we have a rival, but she is young and pretty, and my son seems to be attracted to her, which is all kinds of threatening.
Yeah.
I could just picture the two of them in the shadows while everybody else is drinking and dancing and having a great time, and they're just like, you thought that this was a happy story, but this is only the end of Act 1. We still gotta have some conflict, and we're gonna bring it.
Yeah. Such a good song. And it's so ominous while also being so joyful at the end.
Yeah.
They're talking about how we will always remember this moment. Time will pass, days will turn to weeks and months and years, but we'll keep this moment, this feeling in our hearts. And yeah, you definitely have the sense, yeah, things are wonderful now, but it's not going to last. So moving on to Act 2, the first song is called Market Day, and it's another kind of long song about all the townsfolk overlapping, and we can see how Spindlewood's economy has kind of transformed since Constance arrived. It was not a wealthy town. People were struggling, even the mayor's family. They could barely afford Amelia's dress or the other wedding expenses. But now we see the mayor is actually able to pay his employees what they're due. People are going to town. So Constance has been giving away dresses to not only Amelia, but the other girls in town. They're just a huge hit. And her charitable work brings joy and prosperity to some, but it disrupts Ma Riley's business. So she is furious. She feels very much like how Jesus also had enemies who resented his miracles and the way he changed the status quo, especially if it interrupted their business or their way of life. One thing I thought was interesting was the fact that Constance's talent and the thing that she does for others is making clothing. I wondered what the significance of that is. I think it may have to do with the way clothing can give or restore a person's sense of dignity, of confidence, of beauty. In the Bible, I think in Paul's letters, there's the idea of being clothed in Christ. as part of the rite of baptism or confirmation in some churches. It may seem like something extra, like something frivolous or materialistic, but the way you dress does impact your self-perception and the way others perceive you. So the fact that she is doing this work and giving this incredible gift away freely just amazes the people around her. She surprises one girl with a dress she'd been saving up to buy one, but then she just gives it away for free.
Before Moll even comes to her to buy one, which I think is very Christ-like and symbolic. Like, we don't have to earn Jesus' approval or love or his good gifts. He gives them freely before we even ask. Now that you mention it, I think the idea of clothing and the importance that dresses especially have for women, but really for people of any gender, finding something that looks good on you and that feels good on your body can have such a huge impact on your self-confidence and the way that you see yourself. And I feel like it's an extension of the love that Constance feels for the people of Spindlewood. She has always found the people around her as beautiful and wonderful, and I feel like her wanting to give people these beautiful dresses that enhance and draw attention to their beauty is a way of her continuing to celebrate the beauty that she sees around her and allow other people to kind of see themselves and see each other the way that she sees them.
Mm-hmm.
She also reminds me a little bit of Tabitha or Dorcas, depending on, I guess, what culture you're coming from. The woman in Acts who is raised to life by Peter. The community comes to Peter after this woman dies, and they're showing him these beautiful articles of clothing that she's made for poor people in her community. And, like, this person loved us, and here's the material proof. Please bring her back to us. Which is kind of interesting, thinking about how Constance's story continues to play out.
That was very beautifully put. Over the course of that song, there is also the arrival of someone from out of town, Mr. Reese, and he offers Constance a job in the city. Unspecified, unnamed city, but obviously this is a huge opportunity for her. But she hesitates. She apparently is still living with Abraham. We don't know exactly how they explain that situation or her relationship to him to other people. But she says she has to talk to him first. And at some point in this act, this is not in the soundtrack, but in the script, it's revealed that Abraham has been working on a second sort of automaton body, thinking that it could become him or he could become it. Yeah. It would somehow preserve his life or his consciousness. We don't want to
know the details of how that works.
Yeah.
But again, it's a fairy tale, somehow or other. Don't ask about the details.
He still won't let Constance go off and have her own life. I think that's also the point where he refuses to wind her up again.
Yeah.
That was something that was established earlier. She has a wind-up contraption like a clock, and it's in her back, so she can't wind herself up. She is dependent on Abraham.
Mm-hmm. And that's the way that he maintains control over her.
Yeah. Because she can run down like any other clock. The next song is called If You Could See My Heart, which sounds kind of cheesy and cliche, but it's actually really beautiful. It's a dialogue between Will and Constance. He is trying to persuade her to take the opportunity that's been offered to her, and also trying to work up the courage to tell her how he feels about her. Mm-hmm. And Constance is torn and feels that she can't tell him the truth about what she is and why she can't. She believes that she can't take the job.
Because Abraham, hasn't he at some point given her the Frollo or the Mother Gothel talk, or the talk of any manipulative guardian figure who is like, it's not going to be safe for you out there, and if people know what you are, they're going to hate you and revile you as a monster or whatever, and I'm the only person you can trust. I think she is definitely feeling something for Will as well, but it's like, I I don't know if I'm going to be safe trusting this person with the truth, and also she can't escape from Abraham's control.
Mm-hmm. Before Will can profess his love, Constance runs off. I think she realizes that she is about to run down.
Yeah.
And then Will and the other townsfolk find Constance in the square or some public place. She stopped mid-run. That was when she ran down. And then Abraham has to come and wind her again in front of everyone. So they now know that she is made of clockwork. Abraham doesn't really explain anything, just says she's not what you think. And he and Constance go off home. And then the town is kind of in a panic. What is this? What is going on? They think it's witchcraft or something unnatural. So then there's the song Fear and Whispers. And Will is full of doubt about whether anything Constance appeared to be is true. He may be questioning his own feelings or whether their relationship was real in any way. But then Amelia talks some sense into him. She's awesome. She's like the MVP of the story, honestly. Yes. She reminds him, Constance was good. She was a friend to us. And now everyone is turning their back on her. And that's not right.
When I first listened to the album, I was like, feels like kind of a jump that they find out Constance is different from what they thought, and they immediately assume that she is evil. Mm-hmm. And they are making some pretty big assumptions in Fear and Whispers, and then in the later town meeting, they're just assuming that she is out to get everyone, and people are like hiding behind locked doors and talking about her like she could be hiding anywhere and pounce on anyone from anywhere. I'm like, what? From any of your previous interactions with her, what makes you assume that she is a predator? But then I was thinking about it more, and I was like, that is kind of how people respond in real life, though, to people who are different, to people whose bodies are different, or people who are coming from a different background, or finding out something about somebody that you didn't know before. I've made those assumptions in my own life, where I found out something about someone that I knew, and it completely changed my perception of them, partly because of prejudices that I had been taught, but also because it changed how I looked at someone that I thought I knew, and that is challenging. It's difficult. So I like that Constance can kind of stand for a lot of different groups of people and types of people who are marginalized and judged by others without explicitly being directly analogous to any one person or group of people. But there are multiple types of people who could relate to this experience from both sides, from both being the one that people are making assumptions about and also people who are making judgments and assumptions based on not fully understanding someone whose experience is different from theirs. Mm-hmm. And I really like that conversation between Will and Amelia, because she does bring him back to, what do you know of Constance? What has your experience with her been? That doesn't change based on just the fact that you know something different about her. That doesn't erase the person that you know her to be already. And also she draws his attention to the ways that they are similar and their experiences are not so different as he thought. Unfortunately, not everyone in Spindlewood is part of that conversation.
Yeah. There is a confrontation between Will and his mother, Ma Riley. Ma is trying to stir up the people. She calls for the town meeting and is inviting everyone to go. And she also shows Will that she is in possession of a gun or some type of firearm.
Very Chekhovian.
Yes. And as they're arguing, she misfires and accidentally shoots Will.
Which is one of the most contrived plot points of the show, honestly, but we're gonna, again, brush off that.
Yeah. Then we're shown the town meeting, and there is actually a song called A Town Meeting. Mayor Glynn tries to be sort of level-headed, but Everyone else is already stirred up and they're talking about going after Constance. Then Amelia steps up and defends her. And it reminds me of Marion when she defends Harold Hill at the end of The Music Man. Also feels like the mob song in Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
And getting back to biblical parallels, it reminds me of Jesus' trial and the plot against him by the Sanhedrin, the false accusations that come up, people forgetting all the good deeds that he did for them, individually and collectively. They all turn on this person that they previously adored and had made such a big fuss about. Amelia manages to convince at least some of them. She reminds them Constance didn't just make dresses, she also did other random acts of kindness, like finding someone's lost pipe or making sure a working girl took her lunch break and did her calculations correctly.
And it seems like she almost has succeeded in swaying people and kind of having that talk with everybody that she had with Will. Like, no, you know this person. Remember the good that you know and don't let your assumptions erase your actual experiences with this person. But then
Ma Riley barges in and basically lies. She tells the people that Constance came after her, shot Will, and took him away. The townsfolk see that as, oh, Constance attacked one of our own. We have to stop her. We have to save Will if he's still alive. While all this is happening, Will has gone to Abraham and Constance. He apologizes to Constance, they reconcile, and they are actually talking about running away, starting a life together. But before they can carry out any of these plans, it's revealed that Will is fatally injured, and kind of like Eponine in Les Mis, he dies. I think that is Constance's first encounter with death herself. Yeah. That is really her darkest moment. She has been such a kind and bright person, but now she really turns on Abraham in anger. The song is called Clockwork, and it's very intense musically and emotionally. She confronts Abraham with all that he did that led to that moment. How he made her not thinking of what was best for her, but only about what he wanted. Pretty similar to Frankenstein in that he created life without really considering the responsibilities, not just to take care of, but to give respect and freedom to this person. Constance says, well, if you just want me to be constant and static, like clockwork, I guess clockwork that is run down, then that's what I'll be. The mob is arriving at Abraham's house. Constance, I guess, as kind of her last act of defiance toward Abraham and her last act of free will, goes out to meet them instead of hiding. She is shot, I think, by Ma Riley.
They break her. It's not clear who does it. It's not clear how they do it, but Constance is damaged such that she stops functioning, and they can't just wind her up again.
I think the truth comes out about Ma Riley being responsible for shooting Will, and so Constance's name is cleared. Abraham does repent at the end. He recognizes that Constance was more than just the memory of his child that died or a replacement for her. He finally realizes that she's not a thing, she's a person. He tries to fix her but is unable to do so. And at this point, we transition back to the present day where the storyteller is wrapping up his story, and the townsfolk still need to turn the key as that annual ceremony that they do. So they try it, and nothing happens. The same way nothing happens every year. She does not start up again. But some people stick around after the ceremony to talk about her. It is revealed that a descendant of Amelia and Henry is there and still has Henry's watch that was made by Abraham. And her grandmother told her that that was proof that the story was true. Most people are skeptical about whether it really happened or not. And then in the final moments, it's revealed that the storyteller is actually Will. And although Abraham was not able to restart Constance, he was able to save Will's life by giving him that clockwork body or prosthetics that he was working on. And Will can be wound up in the front, not the back, so he is able to keep himself going. He has told Constance's story to hundreds of people and is still hopeful, still waiting for Constance to wake up.
It's kind of like John left behind one of the last survivors who actually witnessed the events and is trying to keep the memory of this person alive and still waiting for their return and still hoping to see the end of the story play out.
Yeah. Constance, as a statue, also reminds me very much of Hermione in Shakespeare's play, The Winter's Tale. At the end of that play, Hermione is actually still alive, but she's pretending to be a statue.
Or, depending on the interpretation, preserved as a statue through some kind of magic.
Yeah. Both statues are a tribute to someone who was wrongfully put to death in some way, and there is this nagging idea that she could come back to life. This stubborn hope. It's a very bittersweet ending in the case of Clockmaker's daughter. They say that she needs a reason to wake, and they hope that she'll not only come back, but that she will forgive the people who wronged her. It's also kind of ironic for Will. He was so bored with his life, and now has sort of eternal life. He mentions how the world has changed around him. The world is a different place, while she is the same. There's also irony in the fact Spindlewood is presented at first as a town where nothing ever changes, but Constance causes change there. Then she ends up as the one fixed thing there while the world around her changes.
Yeah, that is ironic. It's a bittersweet ending. Tragic, but still hopeful.
Yeah. There is still hope for redemption and resurrection and reconciliation.
I actually, as much as I love happy endings, and I would love for it to end with Will trying to wind Constance a second time after everyone has left, and she comes back to life, and they're reunited, it doesn't end that way. But when we were watching the staged reading and it ends with that image of, you know, this girl still frozen, I thought that is a more truthful ending to the world that we're living in now, because there are some things that can't be made right in this lifetime. Even if we do change and try to atone for our mistakes in other ways and become different people, if someone dies, we can't just bring them back. If someone is killed wrongfully, even if we enact policies and change the way we do things and vow to try to do better going forward, that person is still gone. And there are some things that we need to wait for God to make right on the other side of eternity. As sad as it makes me, I do appreciate that it ends with Constance still frozen, but the hope that maybe in another lifetime there is still hope for things to be made right, but we're not in that reality yet.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a very good point. So that brings us to the end of the story. Amelia, do you have any other thoughts on the show or any aspect of it that you think is worth talking about?
I have many thoughts about this show, but I think we've covered a lot of it. It's a beautiful, charming show with a unexpectedly deep message. The first time I listened to it, I was like, oh, this is delightful, and also sad, but still delightful. But then the more I listen to it and think about it, this really is a very poignant message, and there's a lot of really thought-provoking themes and material in the lyrics and in the story itself. So I think it is a really powerful story. I would love to see a production of it. I would love to see it come stateside. Here's hoping that it will come to our area at some point, because I really think it's a wonderful show for community theaters and school theaters, because it has the potential to have a large cast and a lot of different small featured roles. So it'd be great for community and high school theaters. And it has a message that is really relevant and poignant to communities everywhere that I think it has the potential to be a really meaningful story. So, community theaters, high school theaters out there, research this show, find out how to bring it to your area, because it's a good one.
Yeah. You can find the soundtrack on Spotify, on YouTube. There is a recording out there of the staged reading. We highly recommend this story. Amelia, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this, and thank you for introducing me to this story, because it is a beautiful one.
Thank you for taking it and giving me so many more reasons to love it, because this is what you do. I introduce you to new things. I'm like, Jackie, here's this new show or movie or thing that I found, and you're like, oh my gosh, did you think about all the ways that this person is like a Christ figure and this theme and this biblical parallel? And I'm like, I did not, but I love it now. So thank you for going on this adventure with me.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us for this conversation. For more content like this, please check out our website, findingfaithinfandoms.org, and look us up on our social media and Patreon. We really appreciate your support. Thank you, and God bless.